What is up there, everybody? Sea of Red Sports here with yet another video. I am a Husker fan and I'm here with a YouTuber called Red River Aviation. He is an Oklahoma Sooner fan and we are doing our top 10 teams of the week for week 7. We're recording this on Sunday night after we've had a chance to watch the games that we're interested in and to discuss the top 10. And we have our reasons, and I have some pretty graphics up on the edited version of this video for you all to watch. Well, I'm just going to introduce Red River Aviation. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Alrighty, so with him on the line and the show and hopefully recording his audio, we will get started here. We did actually record a week 6 version. I wasn't able to get the video up in time for a week 6 games. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put at the end of the video, I'm going to show what our week 6 teams were, top 10, and then you'll get to kind of see a comparison between that and this week. There are some big changes this week in both our top 10s, as you're seeing. And let's get started with our number 1 team. And just before we do that, I want to mention we are not putting Big 10 or Pac-12 teams in yet, because those will come when they play. We'll put Big 10 teams here in 2 weeks, just before the Big 10 starts to play. So with that being said, we'll get started with our number 1 team, and I'll reveal them here as we go through pretty graphics that you'll see at the end. But starting here with number 1, we both have Clemson. I think it's pretty obvious why. Clemson is the only team that hasn't struggled against anybody. Even Alabama jumped on the struggle bus this week.
Looked good on both sides of the ball.
Yep. They absolutely destroyed Miami. They made it look like some sort of group of 5 team. I do actually think Miami is actually back, though, for real, but they won't back this week.
They're not ready for Clemson type teams.
Yeah. And then we have our 2 and 3. My number 2 is Alabama, and your number 2 is Georgia. And then I have my number 3 as Georgia, and your number 3 is Alabama. So do you want to go over real quick why you have Georgia ahead of Alabama, and then I'll explain why I have Alabama ahead of Georgia.
I think it's pretty obvious why I have Georgia ahead of Alabama, and that's because Alabama's defense got annihilated by a, would you agree, on at best average Ole Miss offense?
I think the offense is actually pretty good. It's just the
pretty
defense.
Good, but I mean, once again, guys, I said this in the first video. Unfortunately, that didn't go up, but I've tried my best. But with everything else I got going on right now, I can't keep tabs on every single team and everything they got. So if I'm a little off on some of these, I apologize. But yeah, I had Georgia ahead of Alabama because Alabama's defense didn't play very well, but their offense obviously did very well versus, again, a pretty average defense in Ole Miss. And I was more impressed with Georgia's win over Tennessee this week. I thought they had a really nice win versus Tennessee. It was, by 21 points? 44-21, I think?
Yeah, 44-21.
Really nice win there for Georgia. That was a great win for them.
Yeah. And I was tempted to put Georgia ahead of Alabama because I do really like their defense. And
I mean, they do play this week, so that will make the big difference.
That will make the decision. But Tennessee was a little disappointing from what I was expecting from them. If we had put up the Week 6 video, you would have heard me say all kinds of good things about their offensive line, which the offensive line that was able to rush for -1 yards. Yes, absolutely amazing.
Holy, that's pitiful.
So it was terrible, and I was slightly off on that, but Georgia's defense was very good, still the best in the country. I just had Alabama just ahead of them because I like their offense quite a bit. I think they can beat anybody. Their defense, though, has shown some struggles. They struggled against Ole Miss, and they were concerning against Missouri, which is one of the worst teams in the SEC, or you'd think so, except they just beat LSU this week, so who knows who's good and who's bad in the West. The only thing we know is that Bama's on top in the West, Georgia's on top in the East, and then everybody else is fighting over the scrap heaps. So, next up we have Notre Dame. We both had Notre Dame at number 4, and I think the reason for that is fairly obvious. Both teams have been good, and, what do I mean both teams? Notre Dame has been good, and they've beaten all their opponents fairly convincingly, except they have been showing some issues where their defense can't stop Florida State or Duke, both 2 of the worst teams in the ACC, so that is kind of problematic. we'll see how that turns out in a few weeks when they play some good teams like Miami and Clemson. But for now, they're the only team that really consistently won their games other than the teams ahead of them. So we have them at number 4. And next up, we have our 5th and 6th ranked teams. And you have North Carolina at 5, Oklahoma State at 6, and I have those two flipped. So just as with Alabama, Georgia, I'll let you go over your reasons why you have it that way, and then I'll go over my reasons.
North Carolina got a really nice win versus a very solid Virginia Tech team this week. Oklahoma State's played a pretty nice Tulsa team, and then pretty bad Kansas and a mediocre West Virginia. We haven't seen OSU tested, and Tulsa gave them a run for their money. OSU's offense is undeniably one of the best in the college football right now. Their defense, I want to see them play a nice offense, or a really good offense. And Tulsa was really banged up. Obviously, conditioning, fatigue, and all those things went into that. Tulsa's offense is very, very nice. But I just thought North Carolina had the better win this week. They'll both get tested. I wasn't shocked, but I was very impressed by the North Carolina offense in that game. And they were up to the task, and they got that big win. So it's going to be interesting. OSU's playing Baylor this week. North Carolina, if you don't mind letting me check real quick, they are playing – my internet's as bad as yours. What can I say? Spelling is hard. They're playing Florida State, so that should be a win for them. So both teams have some average teams to play. But I thought that just North Carolina had the better win. Both teams are really good and very close for me, near tie at 5.
Yeah. So the reason why I don't have North Carolina ahead of Oklahoma State right now is I was really disappointed in North Carolina's performance in the first 2 games. However, that being said, both Oklahoma State and North Carolina are on very similar trajectories right now, where they each had struggle bus wins against teams that those wins kind of now look better than they did. Oklahoma State was trying to lose the best they could to Tulsa, and Tulsa just beat UCF, so they actually look pretty good. Same thing with North Carolina and Boston College. Boston College, what happened to them? They were terrible last year. They suddenly got amazing.
You would think that, with all those great running backs they've had and everything, that they would eventually bounce back with that legacy.
True. And don't they have a new coaching staff this year, if I remember correctly? So I was expecting them to be terrible again this year. So they're pretty decent.
Making it happen.
Yeah. And so both teams are on a similar trajectory. And I'm going to basically pick who has the better performance this coming week, Oklahoma State and North Carolina, to see who takes that spot. Obviously, I'm just going to tell you I was really happy with North Carolina. You're going to see at the end of the video here that for week 6, I didn't even have them in the top 10 because I was concerned their offense was pitiful, frankly.
I don't even
for a
think
team
you
that
had
had
them
so
on
much
the
hype.
border. I think you had them down there at like 15 or 20.
Yeah. And so I'm very happy with how they did against Virginia Tech. I actually picked Virginia Tech to win the game. North Carolina was everything I finally was hoping they would be in that game. So maybe they finally turned it around. They need to beat North.
How about those offenses, though?
Yeah.
Fireworks.
They need to beat Florida State by at least 30 points for me to be satisfied once again. But North Carolina looking really good. Again, the Tar Heels and the Cowboys are going at it basically for who gets 5th position. To be honest, it doesn't matter which one you pick because they're both really good spots. And we'll see how they proceed through their season. Obviously, if one of them loses,
in a couple of weeks, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, obviously, if one of them loses, they'll be out. But we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, and then you can't forget that the Wisconsins, Penn States, and Ohio States will come firing in a couple of weeks, so they'll probably move back a little. But for now, this is what we got.
So, at number 7, we have the same team. We have Cincinnati. And I thought you gave a really good explanation on our attempted last video of why Cincinnati should be ranked at number 7.
I had them 8 last week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Last week I kind of went into detail, but I'll go into detail again. Their offense is very nice. Their defense had a couple little minor issues, but this week got a big game. If they can shut down that Tulsa offense, man, they're going to move up for me. I'm telling you, that's a big game for them. Tulsa's super, super good on offense, and it's going to be a good game, man. I really want to go to that one. I'm kind of thinking about it, but that's going to be a really good game for Cincinnati. It's going to really show how good their defense is. This is their first, wouldn't you agree, legitimate test here. So, but Cincinnati's a good team, and they could definitely keep moving up if they go get a big win versus Tulsa this week, and looking really, really nice.
Yep. That's a fact. I didn't have them in my top 10 for week 6 because I saw some things I was concerned about. The defense showed a few holes I didn't like. But they're in here because I actually agree with your points now, and a bunch of teams lost.
A lot of teams fell, man. A lot of teams fell. It was a tough week.
I have Iowa State at number 8, and I'm going to reveal number 8 and number 9 teams. You have BYU at number 8. I have BYU at number 9. And then you also have Texas A&M at 9. We'll get to Texas A&M here in a moment, but we'll just go over Iowa State and BYU right now. Iowa State is looking very impressive. A Matt Campbell-led team. He is not going to stay at Iowa State forever. He is going to have one of the big programs calling him in a few years. So Iowa State fans better enjoy him while we have him here. He's very good. He's been able to build a culture at Iowa State that has an identity and a purpose, which is really important for building a football program. And Brock Purdy is turning out to be everything we hoped he would be, except in week 1. But other than that, Iowa State has looked like what we wanted them to be. And they're on their way to possibly even winning the Big 12 title this year. That seemed to be impossible to think of a year ago, but here we are. I have them at number 8. This is a lot higher than most people have them, but I really like how they're going. I really like the culture there. I really like team spirit. The offense is amazing. Their defense is very underrated. That's why I have them at number 8. I know you have them just outside your top 10.
I'll go into reason, but yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go into the why you don't have Iowa State in your top 10.
Citrus made some very good points about how great Iowa State is, but we have to keep in mind, I know they were banged up, but they lost in week 1 to Lafayette. Iowa State's a great team, but simply, you got to kind of prove yourself. I know it's an interesting year and everything, but I just don't think they're quite ready to jump into the top 10 for me yet. I have them at that 14 spot. I think they're a very solid team. I think they can go out and compete with a lot of teams that are really good in Power 5 at any time, and they are in the run for the Big 12 title. They control their own destiny. They got Oklahoma State as their biggest game, but I see them beating Texas. I see them beating Kansas State. I see them beating a lot of these teams that are pretty gosh dang solid. But, as the season goes on, we'll see if they can prove themselves, They had moments where they kind of struggled on both sides, but for the most part, they've looked really, really nice this year. And as he said, Matt Campbell, right?
Yeah, Matt Campbell. Yep.
Matt Campbell's done a really nice job up there. This team, I think 3 years ago was 3-9, and they've progressively climbed the ladder. They got a nice win at Memphis, or in the Memphis Bowl or whatever it's called. I'm forgetting its name right now. Liberty Bowl or something a couple of years ago when they were really climbing the ladder and doing their thing. And if they keep playing like this, Brock Purdy turned out to be a complete shock of a great player for Iowa State, and they got the nice tight end and everything. I'm really eager to see how Iowa State does going forward, but I just don't think they're quite ready for the top 10. I want to see them play Oklahoma State and see how they do versus them. But not a bad team whatsoever. They're by far one of the best teams in the Big 12 at the current time.
Yeah, absolutely great. And that's fine. You can have a reservation about a team not putting in your top 10. We will know in a couple weeks if those reservations are justified. BYU. We both have BYU in our top 10. We actually both moved BYU up one spot this week. That is not because of their performance against whoever non-name program they played this week.
They got a decent win. It wasn't great, but they got a decent win versus UTSA maybe?
Yes, I believe that was it.
UTSA 27-20. Oh, it was close. I didn't think it was that close. I thought it was a couple scores.
UTSA is the first team to actually so that this defense can be slowed down, or this offense can be slowed down.
At the same time, though, you got to keep in mind that it was 21-6 at the end of the third, but
that's
same
true.
point.
Those mostly were all trash time points, but then again, we actually got to see that BYU could actually possibly be stopped, so we hadn't thought that was impossible the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, their offense definitely got slowed down by just the average UTSA team, but yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm. They still won the game though, which is a very important in 2020. LSU fans, I'm sorry,
kind of like pass and
how
fail in school nowadays. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I'm sorry you LSU fans know what needing to win is all about now. But BYU is still 4-0. Still looking good. You'll be able to get to have some good resume wins because you've now scheduled some Mountain West teams as they decide they're going to play after all. So you're going to have Boise State, San Diego State coming up. So that should be some good resumes for you. and we'll see how that goes for you. So,
And they got a late game versus Houston this week on Friday night at 8:30. So that's going to be an interesting one.
yeah, that should be a good game. Houston do look to be as good as people thought they would be here, so that should be a great matchup. I'm just going to review our number 10 teams here right now because we both have Florida at number 10. You have Texas A&M at number 9. Tell me why Texas A&M should be number 9, and then I will laugh at that right after that.
Well, I will be honest. I was desperately running out of teams. I did not want Florida to drop out of the top 10, but it kind of doesn't make sense to put a team that just beat the other team above of them. So I put Texas A&M 9. I will be honest with you guys. I don't think they're a top 10 team. I think they're decent. I think they're probably at best a top 15 team. I do not think they're top 10. Their defense has work to do. Their offense worked good versus probably the worst Big 12 defense in the league right now. Definitely on that one. But, I was running out of teams. I wasn't ready to put Iowa State up there. I wasn't ready to put Miami back in the top 10. I wasn't ready to put Auburn up there yet. Auburn's got to do better than what they did versus Georgia. So, I don't have great reasons. They're looking decent, though, and they're going to have – man, they kind of had a brutal schedule. But this week, they take on Mississippi State. They should be able to win that game. They've looked pitiful since they're upset. So, there you go on that one. I do have Texas A&M at 9 because I thought I didn't have any other teams to put there pretty much.
Okay. And with that being said, I'm now going to go into my Texas A&M and Florida rant because I had some feelings about that game. So, Kyle Trask is still a legit Heisman contender. However, we both have Florida here at 10 because, well, they lost to a bad Texas A&M team. This team is bad. If you watch them the first 2 weeks, they beat Vandy by 5 points and scored a total of 17 points. You don't score 17 points against Vanderbilt. They are one of the worst teams in the country. That is just unacceptable. And you got blown out by Alabama, who doesn't have a defense this year. This is bad. This is terrible. And then Florida's defense shows up there. Or so we say didn't show up there. And what happened to their passing? Their pass rush, their passing defense is non-existent. How are you going to stop Texas A&M wide receivers when you are 10 yards away from them? This is not supposed to happen. What kind of a defense do you guys have? You could fit the plane you chartered between your defenders and the offensive players who are running away from you. You made Kellen Mond, who is an average quarterback at best, look like a Heisman winner. This is terrible. This is not acceptable. You need to put it together. I will throw you out of the top 10 forever.
That was great.
That is all I have to say about you, Florida. May we never speak of this game again.
Yeah, golly. Citrus put it on the money right there. Florida's defense is pitiful. The offense is good. They would make a great Big 12 team. Them and Alabama could come to the Big 12. We'll take them any day. And
Absolutely.
That's where we're at with the Florida Gators, man. It's sad because their defense even last year was pretty gosh dang solid, and I don't know what's happened, man. I don't know what's going on with the Gators. Golly.
Did your 5-star safety suddenly get betted? Did your 5-star safety start betting that you would lose this game? I want to know what happened.
Facts, golly.
So with that being said, we will now put up our first four teams out. I have Virginia Tech, Miami, SMU, Marshall. You have Miami, Auburn, SMU, Iowa State. We already talked about Iowa State. We both have SMU in, and maybe we want to talk about them, why we have them here.
Yeah, SMU's looked really, really solid, man. They didn't get to play that TCU game, but, I mean, they legitimately took care of SFA, which is their really bad Texas team. But they did nice versus North Texas. They're still decent. Was able to win versus Texas State, rather. Got a nice win over Memphis. They got Tulane this week at 5 o'clock at Tulane. Not a bad team at all. Their quarterback, Shane Bussell's still around. I forgot he's still around. Nice player, man. He was really good at Texas there for a couple years. God, feels like he's been around for 7 or 8 years now. But they got the number 11 now offense, and they average 45 points a game. Looking really, really nice, and they even got a nice recruiting class this year. So, I mean, they're looking like a good team. So, I just thought they were deserving of some recognition. They got that Tulane game, and they were, I want to say, was it last year or 2018 that they were really solid?
I think it was 2018. 2019, they had that crazy, I believe it was a triple overtime game against Tulsa. That was a fun game to watch.
That was last year. 2018, they were really solid, and then last year they had the crazy game versus Tulsa, and Tulsa blew it. But yeah, somehow SMU is looking really good this year, and I'm really excited to see what they can do. And just a quick note on the Tulsa game: kickers have been a problem. Tulsa would have potentially won that OSU game that we had a kicker, and we lost that SMU game because of kicking. So yeah, we need to get a kicker. It's desperately needed.
Yep, just ask us Husker fans. We know a thing or two about currently being on the kicker struggle bus.
Oh boy, definitely.
SMU, though, has looked very impressive to me, other than that first game against Texas State, where Shane Bussell looked like he was in a daze and couldn't throw the ball to save his life. But then again, it was a Week 1 game, and seemingly everybody struggled Week 1, including you, Alabama. The only team that hasn't struggled at all is Clemson. They're probably going to win national championship right now, if I had to guess. We'll see if Ohio State has anything to say about that. But SMU's looked very good. They had a nice win against Memphis. And they have some more games coming up. Tulane, this will be a good matchup. We'll see, again, how good they are. I have Virginia Tech in here. I know you don't. I was still impressed with Virginia Tech. Even though they didn't win against North Carolina, they still showed me that they are going to be a very good team this year. And they're going to upset somebody they weren't supposed to. Wasn't North Carolina? Maybe it's Miami. Maybe even Clemson or Notre Dame later on down the road. But those issues with COVID clearly have not stopped them from being able to put up a bazillion points against anybody. I don't think they scored less than 40 points so far in a game this year. So they've looked very good. And tell me why you have Auburn here in your top 14.
Well, despite Auburn's loss to Georgia, I thought they were still looking kind of decent. Their defense still is decent, but obviously not great. You know, they're still an all right team. I don't know how they got past Arkansas and they beat a decent Kentucky team, but they got South Carolina, Ole Miss, LSU coming up. So, and they're not the worst team in the world. Nick's at quarterback's been looking decent for them, but yeah, they got some work to do. Rethinking it now, I'd probably think about Virginia Tech twice for sure. Putting them at least in recognition, they're definitely in my top 20, probably in that 15-16 area. But yeah, I just thought Auburn was still a good team, and I thought they still were on the border there of or at least consideration type bill.
Okay, cool. I am still disappointed by Auburn. I don't know what happened to Arkansas, but apparently Sam Pittman is working his magic over there in Arkansas and turning a team that hasn't won an SEC game since 2017 into a contender in the West? What is this? Anywho, we both have Miami in here, and for good reason. Miami has been good in the first 3 games, excluding that 4th game. We won't discuss that. I know Miami fans won't like that.
I got some stuff to say about Miami if once you get done, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead with Miami.
Okay. I know Miami has had their struggles over the last 10 years or whatever you want to call it. I know that they have had disappointing games in the past, and I know they have not been very good. But they brought in, why is the quarterback's name slipping my mind right
Jarrett
now?
King.
Transfer. They brought in Jarrett Keene. They're looking really nice. They had some nice games early. Their defense is looking solid again. They're just simply not ready to compete versus the Clemsons and all the teams on the top right now. They're just not ready to do it yet. They are still a very nice team, and one game versus the best team in college football does not mean that they're bad whatsoever. I said last week, I don't know if you want to replay it or not, but I said last week, even if they got beat bad, I would not drop them very much. And I still think Miami is a really good football team. Like I said, just because they lost bad does not mean. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this going a little because I'm trying to get their schedule pulled up to see who they play. Just because they lost to a Clemson team by a solid 20 points or whatever, 25, does not mean that they're bad. They got Pittsburgh, bounce back Central, 11 o'clock. They'll be able to go out there and get them, man. And let me tell you, they still have an above-average offense. They still score 37 points per game. They still run the ball pretty well at 23. And they have talent, man, and they got good recruiting classes coming up. Just because they took that big loss does not mean that they're bad. They still got that Louisville win, and I'm really excited to see what they have down the stretch. They really don't have a big game till Virginia Tech later on. North Carolina State, I think, escaped a win versus Syracuse, maybe? Yeah, they got a win. Or, sorry, Virginia. Yeah, Virginia. So, that Miami team, I'm just saying, just because they took a bad loss this week does not mean that they're a bad team whatsoever. They're just not ready for teams like that. It's as simple as that.
Yep. I totally agree with that. And that's why both of us didn't drop them too far. Because we both agree that we actually think Miami is back for real this year. Now, of course, if they can continue that up with recruiting and such, yeah, Miami can be back legit for real. But they are back this year. I'm just letting you know they're going to be in the top half of the ACC
This is not Texas, okay? This team is different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is not Texas kind of back. Texas, they're back to being an 8-5 team. Sorry, guys. But Miami, they're legit back to being a contender on the ACC on a regular basis. Florida State, I'm sorry, Seminoles fans. You guys have quite a ways to go on that one. You're not going to be back for many years to come. Hallelujah, we can celebrate that.
Down there. They played a decent game versus Notre Dame, so I give you guys that. That wasn't a bad performance.
Yeah. But Notre Dame shouldn't let them be that close.
True.
Yeah, I'll get into Marshall here also real quick. So you might wonder, why do I have Marshall in the top 15? And I can guarantee you, if Marshall continues on their path, they will finish in the top 15. And they're looking like one of the best Sun Belt teams right now. They've blown out everybody they've played. I can't think of anybody who
I will double check
has come close. They beat Appalachian State 17-7. They beat a terrible Eastern Kentucky team 59-0. I don't remember who else they've played this year, but they've blown out everybody.
They also got Western Kentucky by 38-14.
Okay, and Western Kentucky is a team that most people thought was good. So, yeah, Marshall is really good. I'm very impressed with their offensive play, and the defense has been good too. Look for them to stay in here. Maybe even sneak into the top 10.
They're going to have a lot of games coming up if they're able to get these ECU and Rice games rescheduled. They got Louisiana Tech this week at 5 o'clock.
All right. That should be a win. So.
You would hope.
Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to put up our predictions from week 6, our top 10 teams. As you can tell, there's been just a little bit of shake-up in that one. I can probably expect another shake-up this week. This has been such a crazy year. I've been loving it so far. We're looking forward to my Nebraska Cornhuskers playing. Unfortunately, it'll probably be a fairly embarrassing loss to Ohio State unless some miracle happens, which this is 2020. That's always possible. And coming after this video, I'll be recording who Nebraska will upset this year. And I have two big predictions for Nebraska this year. And with that being said, I want to thank Red River Aviation for coming on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is Sea of Red Sports, and Red River Aviation, do you have any closing thoughts?
Do you mind if I talk about the OU Texas game for a couple minutes?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Oklahoma Sooner fans can speak now.
Okay. Sorry, this is obviously the one game that I would love to talk about with you guys. So, Oklahoma went into Dallas, and they played an intense football game versus our biggest rival in the Texas Longhorns. And we won a 4-overtime game, 53-45. We figured out how to run the ball. It was huge. TJ Pleasure had over 2 touchdowns. And, man, if that team comes out in the third quarter and plays anybody, they could almost beat Clemson. I can guarantee it, man. But I'm telling you, man. Radler gave them 10 points, so really this game should have been more like a and then let's just conclude the flat. At 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, this should be a 31-7 game. No excuses. But Radler having freshman mistakes. Great move by Riley to bench him and put Mordecai in for the rest of the second quarter. That was the best thing that Riley could have done right there. Defense played so well. It was a drastic improvement. And then Mr. Ellinger did his work. And then overtime, back and forth, fighting. Players were going down left and right. Everybody was getting hurt, but luckily Trey Brown got screwed out of an interception early in the game. He came back, got Ellinger. Reminds me a lot of the Big 12 championship game for 2018. And OU keeps their Big 12 title hopes alive with a huge win. Got a bye week this week, much needed, and really excited to see us take on TCU in a couple weeks. Their offense is garbage. We got to go get a win there, and hopefully I can have OU on the border in a couple weeks ahead. But, yeah, Nebraska's going to get started, and hopefully we can play that rivalry next year. I hope things are back to normal. It's time to go.
Absolutely, and hopefully then we can meet up and maybe do a vlog together. So it'll be good times.
It's ready to go. Ready to go.
Absolutely. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of the day, and God bless you.